So 3 years ago, the Pokemon Company and Game Freak released a mainline Pokemon title that was very different from all of the Pokemon games that we've had up until that point for about 25 years. This game was Pokemon Legends Arceus. A game set in the brand new Hisui region while taking place in the long distant past and later leading up into modern day Sinnoh, with the focus of making the region's very first Pokedex and surveying Pokemon in their wild habitats. This Pokemon experience was something that we had never seen before, as it was focusing more on having action RPG elements, as you had rogue Pokemon that would actually attack the trainer, where you would have to run and avoid their attacks, while also sneaking up and throwing Pokeballs yourself while aiming at the Pokemon. And in the end, many people, including myself, really ended up loving this game for just being such a very new, refreshing type of Pokemon experience, and the Pokemon Company for taking a risk into something that they had never really done before. So when we got the announcement that there was going to be a brand new Pokemon Legends game that was going to be taking place in the Kalos region with Pokemon Legends ZA, of course I was very excited to see what they were going to do, as now they've already done one Pokemon Legends game, they've heard what people loved about the game, they've gotten feedback, and what can they do now to make the second game even better? And as I'm sitting here making this video for you guys, after having finished Pokemon Legends ZA, I have so many things that I want to share about this game that I just need to talk about, because this was definitely a Pokemon game that really surprised me in a lot of things, and I just have so many things to say about it, so I have to get my thoughts out there. There's going to be video chapters in here for you to click around if you want to just hear me talk about a certain aspect, as well as a spoiler section that is going to be towards the end, but I will give a warning for people who haven't finished the game and don't want to listen to that. Now real quick before we get started, I just want to let you guys know that I am having a special giveaway for the holidays where I'm going to be giving away a brand new Nintendo Switch 2 to one lucky winner. Giving away a console has been something that I've wanted to do for a long time, but I've never really been in the situation to do so, but with the launch of the next generation Nintendo system this year, and having talked about it on the channel for so long, I thought it would finally be the perfect time to give it to one of you guys. All you have to do to enter is just click the link below in the description or the pinned comment, and you can have a chance to win a brand new Nintendo Switch 2. The giveaway is open worldwide, and it does end right before Christmas, so definitely be sure to enter for a chance to win. Now the first thing that I want to talk about with Pokemon Legends ZA is its premise, because it really looks like that with these Legends games, they really want to try to have a completely new premise that they've never really done before, instead of just having like a typical Pokemon game where it's just battling 8 gyms and getting all of the badges, taking down an evil team organization and becoming champion. It seems like all of these Legends games are going to be completely different, as with Pokemon Legends Arceus, you were taking place in the distant past of the Sinnoh region, compiling together all of these Pokemon and creating the very first Pokedex, but here we have the complete opposite, as Pokemon Legends ZA is as modern as you can get, taking place in modern day Lumio City, where you have the challenge of ranking up all the way from Z to A in something known as the ZA Royale. It is pretty cool how they did this, because even the reveal trailer where we finally got to see gameplay of this game didn't actually mention anything about the ZA Royale, besides giving a small little teaser at something at the very end of the trailer, but it wasn't until we got an update inside of a Nintendo Direct where we learned about the ZA Royale and ranking up all the way from Z to A, and how that this was going to be a big part of the game. Really what got everyone talking about this game though, as soon as it was revealed on Pokemon Day last year, was when they also mentioned that this game was going to be taking place entirely in Lumio City, as there was a big debate that happened about that as soon as people found out, as on one hand people were like, oh, this game is going to be dead on arrival, there's no way they're going to be able to make a Pokemon game in just one area, it's going to feel so stale, it's going to be very short, there's going to be barely anything to do in it, and on the other hand people were more optimistic about it, saying like, wow, we've never seen Pokemon do something like this before, there's definitely been other games in the past where we've had like games taking place entirely in just one city. One of my favorite games of all time is Final Fantasy VII Remake, and that first game in the trilogy just takes place in one city called Midgar, and it's an incredible experience to go through. A lot of these big like Spider-Man games just take place in this one New York City location, but the entire story unfolds there. There's a lot of quests and things to do, so maybe Pokemon can actually pull this off, and maybe they can actually do it. And now, after having finished Pokemon Legends ZA, I can safely say that I have absolutely zero issues with this game just taking place in Lumio City. Like, of course, I would love for there to be more areas and things to explore, but the fact that this game was only in one city was not a problem to me at all while I was playing through this game, and I actually had a really fun time. One of my IRL friends was actually telling me that he actually really enjoyed this game because of the fact that it was in one city, because they didn't have to worry so much about like going to these big open areas and having to explore and anything, and he liked it being so structured in just this one area where he was able to focus on so many of the different things that you can do inside of the game. And there is a lot of content inside of this game still. It took me about 40 hours by the time that I rolled credits on this game, and even then I still had so many extra things that I just didn't bother doing. So in terms of the content and the things that you can do inside of the game, the first important thing inside of this is the promotion matches, as these are of course going to be like the actual big boss fights that you kind of have as you're ranking up in the ZA Royale. These are the promotion matches that you do so that if you beat the trainer, you can then rank up from Z as you make your way all the way up to rank A. Rogue Mega Pokemon are also another aspect of this game, as these are Pokemon that have undergone Mega Evolution on their own, and they're essentially like traditional JRPG bosses where you go in with one of your friends who's kind of like a party member, and it's like this secluded arena where you kind of have just this one area where it's going to be like this giant Mega Evolved Pokemon with a huge long health bar that's going to take a good bit of time to kind of slowly dwindle down as you defeat it, and these are kind of like the big kind of major boss fights that occur throughout the game. Wild zones are essentially where you get brand new Pokemon to add into your team, and these are going to be areas inside of the city where it's going to be kind of like this closed off area where there's going to be just wild Pokemon roaming around on their own, and some can be a little bit hostile and aggressive, some can kind of just be chilling, but these are kind of areas that get unlocked and you have these new areas to go and explore and find items, but of course catch a bunch of new Pokemon. And finally, there's also an incredible almost 120 extra side quests that you can do throughout the city as well, and these range from different types where some can be kind of simple, like just battling with somebody or bringing them an item or showing them a Pokemon, but even some more complex ones where you have to do certain things and talk to other people and they got more to them, but there's a bunch of other side quests and things that you can do also. So yeah, anybody who thinks that this game wasn't going to have a lot of content because it's only just in one city, like I definitely had so much stuff to do that I was kind of overwhelmed with all the different things that were getting unlocked and all the different places that I could go and all the other kind of elements to it, so I did not have any problem with the content. It still took me about 40 hours to beat this game, and I still had so many other extra things that I just didn't even do. One thing that I also really enjoyed about this game that I feel like I should mention is the trainer customization, as of course we've had trainer customization in past Pokemon games too, but coming from Pokemon Scarlet and Violet, it's actually such a massive upgrade in Legends ZA that I feel like I need to talk about this, because inside of Scarlet and Violet, of course you've had trainer customization with like being able to change your outfit and how you look and wear different things, but because that game was still in like that school setting where everybody who was inside of that game was a student who was going on this adventure together to explore and kind of discover their own treasure and everything, it pretty much restricted all of the outfits that you had to still be kind of like very school uniform centric and stuff, and it just felt kind of not really that good. Whereas inside of this game, it does not matter at all what you put on. You've got so many different options for clothing, you've got options for headgear, you've got options for like your shoes, and like even like the hair, like you can customize like the hair colors with like different fusions where you can combine hair colors together and stuff. Like it is actually really cool, and I do think that maybe the male characters could still get a little bit more. It does still seem like the female characters are winning in terms of like having way more options, but I do feel like just being able to kind of switch around and create your character exactly how you want, it is a lot of fun. And I've even seen people being able to create characters based off of other games, which I always feel like is so fun to do inside of these types of games. So I've seen people making like Corrin from Fire Emblem in here. I made my character look like Tifa from Final Fantasy. People are making characters look like the Xenoblade characters. Like it is really cool with the stuff that you can do inside of the trainer customization, and I really do hope that they have like this level of trainer customization and really even expand upon it in future games. But now moving on to the main gameplay loop for Pokemon Legends ZA, I actually found myself having a lot of fun with this game, and I never really found the gameplay loop to be kind of boring or tedious or just not that much fun, as really the way that it works is when you progress to a new part of the game, the first thing that's going to happen is you're going to have 2 brand new wild zones that are going to get unlocked throughout the city. This is of course going to give you access to finding brand new Pokemon, so you can add new Pokemon into your Pokedex, you can find some strong Pokemon, maybe switch around some of your team members if if you want to use some of the Pokemon from that wild zone so you can catch them and of course try to evolve them and make them stronger with their moves so that you can then use them inside of the Z Aero Royale. And there's of course like new items and stuff inside of these areas too, TMs and things that you can find, so that's always a lot of fun. There's new side quests that get unlocked as you progress through the game as well, so if you're really having fun doing those and just want to try to take on as many of those as you can also have those to look forward to as you progress through the game also. And then there's going to be 3 rogue mega Pokemon that are going to be going rampant throughout the city, and you and one of your friends is going to have to take those on and try to tame them while also unlocking a brand new Mega Stone. And then finally, the last part is going to be obtaining your Challenger's ticket from doing the Z Aero Royale, and then facing off against a strong trainer in your promotion match to then rank up from Z all the way up to rank A. And this is pretty much the main gameplay loop that you're going to rinse and repeat as you play through the game, and I personally found myself having a lot of fun with it. I loved when brand new wild zones would open up because I would immediately go there to just see what new Pokemon I could then add into my party, and of course I would catch those new Pokemon, evolve them, teach them strong moves, and then be able to use those Pokemon to get my Challenger's ticket in the Z Aero Royale. The Rogue Mega Pokemon were fun because after defeating those, you would then get the brand new Mega Stones as your reward, and then you could use those Mega Stones to get brand new Mega Evolutions that you could then use in your own battles. So I think that it was just a lot of fun and rewarding to do all of these as you played through the game. But by far, one of the most ambitious things that Pokemon Legends ZA has done for a mainline Pokemon game that has never been done before is removing the traditional turn-based battles that we've had for almost 30 years and replacing it with a completely new real-time combat system. Now this is something that I've been really excited for with this Pokemon game from the day that this was announced, as my favorite video game of all time is Xenoblade Chronicles, and that game actually follows a similar type of combat system to what's happening in Pokemon Legends ZA, albeit maybe a little bit more complex because there is more things to do in that game as it's a more traditional JRPG, but it does have a similar type of combat where you're running around trying to avoid attacks, your attacks are charging up on a cooldown timer where you have to wait until you can use your attacks again, and just having that kind of get fused now with my favorite franchise, which is Pokemon, I couldn't wait to see what they were going to do and how this was going to feel like with using different Pokemon. And now, after having finished Pokemon Legends ZA, when it comes to the battles and the combat system, I gotta be honest with you guys, I really did have a lot of fun with the combat system of this game. And I gotta be clear too, this combat system is not perfect. There were still many moments that I had where I was like, this kind of felt a little bit off, like it didn't feel like this made sense, this feels a little bit clunky, it's kind of hard to move around here, but I do feel like it was just very refreshing overall to have an experience like this with a mainline Pokemon game because it is so different from the traditional just turn-based battles that we've had for almost 30 years. The battles in this game are pretty fast-paced, and really a big reason for that is because a lot of the important information is just kind of moving here really quickly in like these text boxes, and I didn't even really find myself paying attention to this all that much where I was like actually reading all of this, but this is where like all the important stuff is, where it'll say like, this Pokemon is now poisoned, this attack was a critical hit, and in a traditional game, it would read out all of this important information to you, and because of that, the battles would feel so slow because it would be like, this Pokemon uses this move, this Pokemon is now recharging, this Pokemon raises its defense, rain continues to fall, like it would just tell you all of this important information, so because of that, the battles would feel really slow, whereas in this game, it is just action, 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 everything is just happening really quickly. And because your Pokemon is always going to be following you inside of this combat system, being able to direct where your Pokemon goes and trying to avoid attacks was also a lot of fun, as there was many cases where I found like a Pokemon using Earthquake and I was able to just have my Pokemon move out of the way and completely take 0 damage while they were starting to go on cooldown for that move, and I didn't have to worry about it, and it definitely added some new strategies that I really found myself enjoying. All your attacks being on a cooldown timer is also so engaging because it really kind of makes you strategize what moves you want to put on your Pokemon, as in like a traditional Pokemon game where it's turn-based, maybe you do want to give like 4 really powerful attacks on your Dragonite, but inside of this game maybe, if you give like your Pokemon like 4 really powerful hard-hitting attacks and they all take like, 15-20 seconds to recharge, then once you use all of them, your Pokemon might just kind of be standing there while your opponent gets a big opportunity to just keep pelting you with attacks while all your moves are recharging, so maybe it's not really worth doing that. And because of that, maybe you want to have some attacks that recharge quickly so that you can use them again, some attacks that maybe hit a little bit harder but take a longer time to recharge. It really kind of makes you wonder what moves you want to give because of their cooldown time, and I really enjoyed that, especially with how like the speed stat and everything works too, because Flamethrower on a fast Pokemon might actually recharge faster than giving it to a slower Pokemon. So it really makes you strategize a lot with the attacks, and I had a lot of fun kind of thinking about which movesets to use. And some attacks also just work completely differently in the real-time combat compared to how they were in like the traditional turn-based games, and it was really fun discovering that and finding that out for myself too, because one that I'm sure all of you guys know because we all got that boys hair across from the tutorial is the move Pin Missile. Now in the traditional turn-based games, Pin Missile is not really that good of a move unless your Pokemon has the ability Skill Link where it's always going to hit the maximum 5 times, but besides that, Pin Missile is a move that hits anywhere from 2 to 5 times, where usually you get pretty poor RNG because it's a low power move and it's just going to hit like 2 times or 3 times and do a very low amount of damage. But inside of this real-time combat system, for some reason, it always hits the maximum 5 times, and it comes out really fast. So when I sent out my Heracross and I used that against a Pokemon, and it just went like boom, 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 and it just hit like a bunch of Pin Missiles really quickly and just like took out all of their HP, I was like, wait, that's how that move works inside of this game? Like, this was actually a move that I kept with me for a pretty long time until I finally replaced it with something like X-Scissor or something later down the line. But it is so cool because there's a lot of different moves inside of this game that work completely differently compared to how they do in the traditional turn-based. So finding that out and discovering it was really cool because there's so many moves that I would never use in like traditional games that I would end up using inside of this game. And another one is also because there's no accuracy inside of this game. Another move that I ended up using is Thunder. In the traditional turn-based games, Thunder is a move that has 70% accuracy, but a really high amount of power. And it's because of that accuracy that I would never really teach it to any of my Pokemon because I feel like I would always miss during the crucial moments that I really needed to hit, so I would go for a more reliable move like Thunderbolt, which has 100% accuracy, but a little bit less power. But inside of this combat system, because the accuracy comes from you using your move at the right time and making sure that your Pokemon is in the range so that it can actually pull it off, I actually found myself using a move like Thunder more than Thunderbolt. So I ended up teaching that to like my Manectric, where the thing with Thunder is that it would take a little bit to kind of charge up, but you would end up hitting the Pokemon and doing a massive amount of damage. So I ended up using moves that I would never really use in traditional games because of this new combat system, and I really had a lot of fun with that. Mega Evolution also works differently inside of battles in this game too, where in the traditional turn-based games, you can only Mega Evolve one Pokemon in the battle, and you basically keep that Pokemon Mega Evolve for the whole battle until it faints. Whereas inside of this game, as long as your Mega Energy meter fills up, you can Mega Evolve multiple Pokemon throughout your battle, and the Mega Evolution is on a timer to where your Pokemon is going to have this timer kind of ticking down with its Mega Energy, and you're only going to be able to stay Mega Evolved for a set amount of time. But because of that, I actually had a lot of fun kind of switching out and using different Mega Evolved Pokemon, and I think that it was just a lot of fun to have stronger attacks, but not also being so OP where you had this Mega Evolution and you could just keep it for the entire battle and just wipe out people's Pokemon really fast because everybody's Mega Evolution would wear off after a little bit of time. But now let's move on to what feels like the only thing that people seem to care about when it comes to Pokemon discussion online, and that is the graphics and visuals. So I played this game on the Nintendo Switch 2, and the Switch 2 edition of Pokemon Legends ZA runs at a buttery smooth 60 FPS while also having an upscaled 4K resolution. And I gotta say, just playing this game for the first time in 60 FPS just felt so nice, especially in like an action type of game like this where you're kind of like dodging Pokemon attacks and moving your Pokemon around in the battles and stuff, and especially just coming from Pokemon Scarlet and Violet, where I think everybody had that experience playing it on the Switch 1 when it first came out and just having those stutters, the chugs, the bugs. It was just such a mess, and going to this game I had no issues with like glitches or bugs or anything that I encountered. My game never crashed, so it was just a very refreshing experience, and I'm really hoping that they can have 60 FPS Pokemon games now for the entire Switch 2's lifespan. I also really like how the Pokemon models and the character models look inside of this game, And I feel like it's just really kind of what I personally would want a Pokemon game to look like, and I think the entire art style is just really good in that sense. It's a big step up from Pokemon Scarlet and Violet in my opinion, where it seems like that game tried to look a little bit more realistic, where it kind of had like more realistic kind of character models, and it tried to have like the Pokemon look more realistic too, and I just didn't really kind of vibe with that compared to like when I see this game, because one thing that they really did well inside of this game is make it full of color. Like, just look at a character from Scarlet and Violet and then look at a character inside of Legends ZA, and you can just see it's so much more vibrant. The colors are popping, the character models look really good. Even with like a Pokemon, you can compare the model for a Pokemon in Legends ZA to what it looked like in Scarlet and Violet, and you can just see like even the Pokemon have much better color and stuff. And so I'm just very happy that they finally did that, and I want my Pokemon games to be vibrant and colorful. And the animations for all of this stuff is also really good too. We've got the attack animations for all of these moves that I feel like look really good inside of like this real-time combat system. We've also got the animations for like when trainers are using like their Mega Evolution and stuff, and they've all got some really cool animations too, so that's really good. I really like how the Pokemon animations are great too. Like, we see some like clips on Twitter all the time where like people are like posting like a bunch of Aeron just kind of chilling, or like a Pokemon chilling and stuff, and the way that Pokemon sit and are modeled and stuff. I think they did a really good job with kind of putting care into that. Really, the only thing that I'm not a fan of when it comes to the graphics and visuals is, yes, there are certain aspects of the game that don't really look all that good, and yeah, you might see some parts where like the ground is going to appear a little bit fuzzy, or maybe like a low resolution like model for something that's like in the environment, or if you get close to a building, you're going to see some like low resolution 2D windows that are just kind of like pasted onto the building and stuff. So there are certain aspects that don't really look all that good, but for me personally, it was never so bad to the point where I was getting like constantly distracted to it and having less fun with the game. But yeah, there are definitely some things that could have used a little bit more polish. But now moving on to something that I actually really loved about this game, it has to be the soundtrack. Pokemon music is always pretty good, and it does have really good bangers with pretty much every game, but there's something about this game where the music doesn't even feel like a normal Pokemon game, and I think I saw some tweet on Twitter saying like there was different composers or something that were working on this game. I don't know what it is, but like the music of this game is just actually phenomenal. Like, the first thing is just songs that are straight up from Pokemon X and Y that are remixed in Legends ZA, and they just have a completely different atmosphere, temperature, and energy to them, and I just really love how they sound with the remix version. I mean, take a listen to like the trainer battle theme that you had on the 3DS with the original Pokemon X and Y. And now listen to this remixed version of it in Pokemon Legends ZA, where it just feels like with having the fast-paced battles and the real-time combat, it just gives off a completely different type of vibe and energy to it than how it does in the 3DS version. So yeah, when I heard that remix kick in for the first time, I was actually like, oh my god, this sounds incredible, and I couldn't believe it. And it's not even just the remix music from X and Y that's this good, because there's a lot of original music that didn't appear in any other Pokemon game that's just brand new music for this game that also sounds just as good. I mean, listen to this trainer battle theme that you have against your friends, where it's this brand new battle theme that's only for Legend ZA. So yeah, that's also another battle theme that's been stuck in my head, and it's not even just battle themes. Like, there's a lot of really good environment music that plays as you're just kind of exploring and wandering throughout the city. There's some really good story music that's like emotional during some of the story beats and cutscenes. So yeah, just overall the soundtrack of this game is so good, and I mean this in the best way possible. Like, there's literally music inside of this game that feels like it doesn't belong in Pokemon. Like, there's one that's a spoiler that I'm not going to tell you, but I can kind of hint at it. There's a promotion match that you're going to face off against a character that you're going to meet later into the game. I'll tell you that it's the promotion match when you go from rank C to rank B. There's a girl that you face off against, and her battle theme sounds like it doesn't belong in a Pokemon game at all, but it is so good. So if you've played the game, you'll know who I'm talking about. If you haven't, I'll let you experience it. But yeah, the music of this game is just amazing. Like, I really enjoyed it. Alright, but now let's talk about the negatives and the things that I actually don't like about Pokemon Legends ZA, because like every other game, this game is not perfect, and there are definitely some things that I wasn't really the biggest fan of. Now, the first thing that I've seen a lot of people talking about online, on social media, and in discussion videos is that the tutorial segment of Pokemon Legends ZA is extremely long and super boring and bloated and unnecessary. And I'm going to surprise you when I say this, is that I actually don't agree. I feel like every single thing that the tutorial part of Pokemon Legends ZA teaches you is extremely vital information and crucial for a new player or somebody who's just getting to know what this game is about. So real quick, let's take a look at all of the stuff that happens during the tutorial part of Pokemon Legends ZA. So the first thing is you meet your characters, you get to have the introduction to Tawny or Urbane at the very start of the game, but then you also meet characters like AZ, but also the team members that you're going to have with Team MZ, such as Lita and Naveen. You learn how to go into a wild zone and catch a wild Pokemon for the first time using the action RPG system of just being able to aim and throw a Pokeball yourself. You get introduced to Mabel and how you get Mabel's research, where you show her Pokemon that you've captured and add new Pokemon, and then you get rewarded with getting items like TMs for brand new attacks. You then learn how to use those TMs to teach your Pokemon brand new moves, and then be able to use those moves to even clear terrain obstacles that are going to be in your way throughout the city. You learn about the ZA Royale and how you battle against trainers and how you can sneak up on them and accumulate points to then get your challenger's ticket. You have a promotion match where you go off against one of the stronger trainers in the game and get to see your rank go up from Z to Y. And then finally, you get an introduction to Emma, who handles the side quests inside of the game, and you do a few to kind of get an idea for how they work. Everything that I just mentioned is extremely important for a brand new player to know when it comes to this game, and I wouldn't consider any of that to be filler. Meeting your friends like Lita and Naveen, these are going to be the characters who are interacting with you for like the next 20 hours as you play through the game, so of course you should have a good introduction to them. Learning how to catch Pokemon. You're obviously going to need to catch Pokemon to then add to your party so that you can battle with them, and not everybody might have played Pokemon Legends Arceus to know that catching works differently inside of these games because of the action RPG elements, so you should definitely have a catching tutorial to kind of learn how to catch Pokemon and the different behaviors that certain Pokemon can have. knowing that you're going to get rewarded for that by having Mabel's research that's going to give you better TMs for attacks and things that you can teach to your Pokemon. That's extremely useful. Knowing that you can clear terrain obstacles to explore even more of the city. And of course the ZA Royale, where you learn how to battle these trainers and accumulate points to then get your Challengers ticket so that you can have a promotion match and then rank up from Z all the way up to A. And then finally having side quests where you learn about all the different people and the problems that they can have and trying to help them and trying to do different things that you can do with the side quests. Every single one of those things is extremely important. So why am I talking about this in the negatives part? It's because that entire section of the tutorial, you are forced to do all of that and you have zero type of any type of freedom to go out and do anything on your own because of the hand-holding, and that's the worst part about this tutorial segment. See, what they teach you in this tutorial isn't anything unnecessary, but the problem is because of the really bad handholding, you have like zero freedom to do anything else that you want besides what the tutorial is telling you, and that is pretty much the case for like the entire first 3 hours of the game, and it can be really demotivating for a new player. Like, I would have zero issues or any problems if the game just said like, hey, let's go meet Emma. She's over here by the Looker Bureau. Meet me here when you're ready to go and meet her. And then after that, I get a little bit of an opportunity to kind of just walk around a little bit, talk to some NPCs, collect some items that I might find, and just kind of explore a little bit and get a feel for the city. It's not like anything's going to be unlocked anyway because we're still in the tutorial, but I just have that little bit of freedom. But because of the way the game is structured, you can't do anything like that for the first 3 hours of the game. And even as you're walking to where they want you to go, if you see like a sparkling item or anything different that you want to kind of go and check out in like the corner or a little bit of a distance away, as soon as you deviate off of the track, they're just going to get you with that text message where it's going to be like, hey, where do you think you're going? We said that we were going to meet by the Looker Bureau. Emma's waiting for us. Let's go over here. And it's like, bro, I just want to see what this item is. It's like 2 feet away. Can I not just go and pick this item up? Like, you don't have the freedom to do anything for like the first 3 hours of this game, and it can definitely be really demotivating for somebody because you don't get to do anything until all of that is done. Now, compared to other Pokemon games, the day and night cycle of Pokemon Legends ZA is definitely more important because the day and night both play a very important role with how the game works, as throughout the day you're most likely doing like missions and catching Pokemon and stuff like that, and then at nighttime you have the ZA Royale where a battle arena opens up and you can actually battle trainers and level up your Pokemon and accumulate points so that you can get your Challenger's ticket. And the thing that got kind of annoying for me is every time it goes from day to night, there's like a little mini cutscene that happens where it shows you the transition and then it says like battle zone activated and it lets you know, and it's like after the first like 3 or 4 times you kind of understand already like, okay, every time this happens there's like a new battle arena that opens up somewhere on the map and I can fast travel there. Like, you don't really need to see it, and it kind of gets even more annoying when like if you've had an experience where you're in the middle of like a battle with an alpha Pokemon or you're trying to catch a Pokemon and then this cutscene activates, it actually just like resets everything too, where all of your Pokemon return back to their Pokeballs, wild Pokemon get back to full HP again, so it can get kind of annoying, especially if you're in the middle of a battle or something and this happens. And really the only problem I have it is when it goes from day to night, because it doesn't really tell you anything useful. It just says that there's a new battle zone that opens up, but I do think that it is important having it when it goes from night to day, because that actually tells you like how many trainers you defeated inside of the battle arena, the multiplier you're getting, and the total prize money, which is going to be different every single time you do it. So I think that that's actually worth kind of seeing every time. But when it just goes from day to night, like you're just seeing the same exact thing where it just says battle arena activated, like I don't really think that it's super necessary. And of course, one of the other topics that a lot of people have already talked about in terms of like their dislikes with this game is that the environment does feel very kind of samey. Like I did mention earlier that I didn't have any problem with this game taking place in Lumio City only, and that is true, but at the same time the environments do feel kind of very samey after a good couple of hours have been put into the game. Now it's not super annoying for me, but it definitely doesn't really kind of feel that fun when you're just kind of seeing the same types of buildings and everything over and over as you're going to like different areas and just kind of finding these different wild zones and things as they get open. But it's not really terrible for me, but I can definitely kind of understand, especially with like how in Pokemon games it's always kind of just about exploring and finding these really cool areas like snow areas and deserts and forests and mountains, and this game is just kind of you're seeing these exact same types of buildings and skyscrapers all the time, and there's also not really like too many like distinct landmarks throughout Lumio City either. Like really it's just kind of Prism Tower that you're always seeing in the middle, but it's not like you're always kind of seeing like these really interesting parks or like water fountains or anything like that either. There is a little bit of variety, but it's not like something that you're really going to remember, or like big landmarks that you can kind of just point out as you're kind of walking throughout the city. But yeah, it can definitely kind of feel samey for some people, so if that does kind of annoy you, I could kind of understand, because it might start to feel a little bit stale. And finally, the last thing that I have to say about the things that I don't like with this game is something that I've been talking about with Pokemon games for the past couple of years, and that is the lack of voice acting. Now, of course, I don't need every single text box or piece of dialogue that's said in a Pokemon game to be fully voice acted, but there are certain moments where the lack of voice acting definitely does kind of feel very off-putting, and it really has to do with the cinematic cutscenes that they have for the story, and there's always a handful of them now with the recent Pokemon games. Now, Pokemon games have had cutscenes for the story ever since like the GBA, where you've had some cool cutscenes like in Pokemon Emerald where Rayquaza comes down to Groudon and Kyogre, and even after moving to the DS, you've had some cool cutscenes that actually utilize both the top screen and the bottom screen of a DS to give you like really cool cutscenes during pivotal moments in the story in something like Pokemon Black and White. And when Pokemon games were still on these handheld systems, like the GBA and the DS, whenever you saw these types of cutscenes, it didn't really bother you that there wasn't any voice acting, because it didn't really matter, and you could kind of see with the scope of the game on the hardware that they were given that characters were using small pixelated sprites. You could barely see their faces or anything, so you couldn't really kind of even see like the facial reactions that they were giving, and a lot of it was left to your imagination to kind of visualize what tone they were talking in, what they were trying to say, and how the story was being conveyed. But after moving to 3D Pokemon games, and especially after making the jump to the Nintendo Switch, now you're in an entire different ballgame when it comes to what other games are also possible on the hardware that you're working with, as there's so many other big adventure games that are also possible on the Nintendo Switch that have voice acting with the 3D character models that they have and how they're conveying their stories. And when you see a Pokemon game still have no cutscenes with like voice acting, it just feels kind of weird, because you have like these cinematic cutscenes now that are very detailed, and you can see the facial reactions on these characters, their mouths moving and stuff, but there's no audio at all. And that is of course the case with Pokemon Legends ZA as well, and it honestly feels like for me it's getting even worse, because the thing is the quality of these cutscenes are starting to improve even more, and they're getting even more cinematic, and I really like the visual effects and things that they got going for them, but the thing is then they still have no voice acting, so then it feels even more jarring now to see like these really high quality cutscenes and no dialogue or anything that the characters are saying, and it just feels really kind of weird. The best way that I can kind of describe this is take a look at this cutscene here from one of my favorite video games of all time, Final Fantasy VII Remake. So I went into the settings for this game and turned down the voice audio completely, so that way you only had the background music and the sound effects for the things that were happening, and now it is essentially what a Pokemon cutscene looks like, because this is literally what Pokemon Legends ZA cutscenes are like, where you hear the music, you hear the stuff that's going on, but there is no audio coming out from the characters, and I'm sure as you were watching that you were able to see that this is kind of feeling very off. But now take a look at that exact same cutscene again, but something like this.
Mother, together we will reclaim our world.
I'm sick of this. I'm sick of all of this! Cloud?
Tell me, is it really you?
Don't deny me. Embrace me. A touching reunion.
Do you see how just adding the voices to the characters just made the entire scene so much more powerful and emotional, and you could really kind of hear how the characters are expressing their feelings and stuff? This is really what makes a game so memorable, because you're really going to remember these cutscenes and they're going to be in your head with their voices and the emotions and things that are being portrayed. And I feel like Pokemon could easily achieve this if they just had some voice acting for these important characters and villains and stuff as they're talking inside of these important cutscenes. Maybe Generation 10 can finally do it, because I really do feel like there's so many amazing moments that we could have really remembered for a long time, especially like even in Pokemon Scarlet and Violet, where like Arvin was really kind of feeling bad for like his Pokemon all the time and stuff. I feel like if those types of cutscenes did have voice acting, we really would remember them much more, and that definitely would have been the case for this game too. But I feel like I'm probably just going to forget about these cutscenes literally like in a month or so after I don't really care that much about Legends EA anymore. But if they did have like a really good cutscene with so much emotion and nice voice acting, I would have remembered that for a way longer time, just like how I do for so many other games that I have with good voice acting. But now this is going to be the section of the video where I'm going to be talking about spoilers and actually big things that happen within Pokemon Legends EA. So if you haven't finished the game, or if you're still looking forward to playing it, definitely don't watch this section if you don't want to get spoiled on stuff that actually happens. I do have this entire video listed out in chapters, so you should be able to just kind of hover your mouse or like your cursor and move to the next chapter where I start talking about the next section. So definitely be sure to do that if you don't want to listen to this. Alright, but if you're still here, can I just say that one of the things that I love the most about this game is how many different unique trainers actually utilize the main gimmick of this game, which is of course Mega Evolution. One of my least favorite things whenever they introduce these new gimmicks in Pokemon games is how so few of the trainers in the game actually use them, and because you're pretty much able to use them whenever you want, it really kind of just makes you so much more overpowered compared to anyone else. And it's like, I think in Pokemon X and Y, literally only 3 other people besides yourself use Mega Evolution after you get it. And I think it's basically like, you have your rival Serena, you have the evil team boss Lysander, and then I think you have Champion Diantha that uses Mega Evolution. And besides like the tutorial fight against like Corina where she uses Mega Lucario, nobody else uses it. And it's the same thing with like Pokemon Omega Ruby and Alpha Sapphire. There's a few other trainers that use it, but like it's a very small amount. And it got a little bit better as they had more of these gimmicks actually be able to use by like every Pokemon instead of having like select Pokemon like Mega Evolution. So I think in like Pokemon Sun and Moon, like pretty much all of the Kahunas were able to use Zimbus, but even then it's just a few amount of Kahunas. And then I think like Pokemon Sword and Shield started to make it a little bit better with how like every gym leader was able to use Dynamax, and then you also had like some of your rivals using Dynamax, so that was pretty good. And then I think like Pokemon Scarlet and Violet was pretty good at it too, where every single gym leader had a terrestrialized Pokemon. There were some other like friends and like characters that had terrestrialized Pokemon too, but this game made me so happy with how there are so many trainers, so many people that use Mega Evolution, and they all have like new Mega Evolutions. There's so many cool characters and they all have like a specific Mega Evolution tied to them. Like, it just made me so happy because there's even a part in the game where like when you're going from I think rank B to rank A and you're getting challenger points for like your ticket and stuff, there's even just random NPCs that straight up just Mega Evolve, and that caught me completely off guard because it's like a generic nobody trainer, and even those people were using Mega Evolution. So it just made me so happy that it didn't feel like I was so OP as being like the only person that could use Mega Evolution, but like everybody else, like literally all of the important characters in the cast all use Mega Evolution, so that made me so happy. But now when it comes to other spoilers, there's a moment in the game that I want to talk about which I've seen a lot of discussion for, as on one side people think it's good and on the other side some people really don't like it. And it's really like when you make it to rank V in the game, there's going to be a part where you take on a Rogue Mega Absol, which is kind of like the tutorial for Rogue Mega Pokemon fights and how to use Mega Evolution and all of that. But once you get your Mega Ring and all of that stuff, you get to have a special battle against Vinny from Quasartico. And the thing that happens is you basically have this promotion match against Vinny, and after you beat him, he specially increases your rank from V all the way up to rank F. And I saw a lot of discussion about this because on one hand there were some people being like disappointed with it because they really thought with all of the marketing and the advertising for this game and how the name is Pokemon Legends ZA, like the whole game was really going to be about slowly making your way all the way from rank Z to rank A, and not knowing that there was going to be like a huge skip for over half the alphabet inside of the game. And on the other hand, some people were like, this game would have gotten way too long if they did that. It would have gotten really boring if you just did the same thing over and over. And I will admit, when I first saw this, I was also kind of a little bit sad because I was kind of looking forward to this game being pretty long and just having slowly like your progress go all the way up letter by letter as you make your way. But really, when I started to kind of realize it later, it made more sense to me because the thing is, the amount of points that you need for like your challenger's ticket also starts to go up as you move up in the ranks, because I think at first you only need like 500 or so to get like your challenger's ticket to go and move up to rank Y, but then it started going to like 500 and then 1000, and then really once that skip happens from V to F, I think like the next jump is like 30,000, so it's like way higher. And so if you were actually moving up the alphabet, going from like 11,000, 12,000, 14,000, 16,000, like it would have gotten so grindy and tedious to move all the way up the ladder just doing that. So I could definitely understand wanting to kind of just save that, because I feel like if people were doing that, then they would have definitely complained about how it was just so tedious and really boring to have to do that over and over and over to really move up all of these letters. But really the biggest reason why I ended up being okay with this later is I started to realize that the reason that they do this is because of what Vinny asks you to do with the Rogue Mega Pokemon, where he straight up says like, hey, when these Rogue Mega Pokemon appear, can you help us take them on so that the people of Lumiose don't have to worry? And that's what you agree to do, and that literally becomes like another part of the story now, because like I mentioned earlier with like the gameplay loop, this is where that gets added into the game now, where you have to take on these Rogue Mega Pokemon and do that as a part of the game now, which is something that you didn't have to worry about at the very beginning part of the game, and that whole point was just about moving up the ranks. So when you were still at like rank Z, moving up to rank Y and then rank X and then W and V, like all you were doing was just getting challengers tickets and then moving up the ranks with the promotion matches. But once you have the Rogue Mega Pokemon introduced, now that becomes another part that you have to handle. And so if you had to take on like these sets of Rogue Mega Pokemon while also having to move up each and every single letter while grinding out all of those points for the tickets, it would have gotten way too tedious and the game would have been so long. So I totally understand now why they decided to skip all of those ranks. And it's actually really funny because in the post game, you unlock the ZA Infinite Royale, where you can just keep challenging people as much as you want over and over, and you actually have to do 15 challengers tickets to then unlock the Eternal Floette that you can have from AZ. And what's funny is 15 is actually the exact number of letters that you skip as you go from V to F, so in the end you basically have to end up doing it 26 times anyway if you really want to get that Eternal Floette. But now moving into some of the bigger spoilers, can I just say that when I saw the character L for the first time, I was actually like losing my mind. I was like, is that Lysander? Like I couldn't believe it, because I really didn't think that this game was going to bring back other past characters aside from the ones that we already saw. Like, I thought Emma was kind of cool to see, AZ was cool, but I wasn't really thinking that there was going to be any other characters, and if there were, they were going to be like minimal ones like Professor Sycamore or something. But when I saw Lysandra, I was like, oh my god, they are connecting stuff. Like, there's actually going to be connections to the past games. And so Lysandra is kind of really used more so as like a plot device to kind of tell you the events of Pokemon X and Y for somebody who might have not played them, but he's also got some really good lines, and I think the way that they do his character in this is so cool because obviously inside of like X and Y, he's so blinded by like what he believes is right and how he wants to like destroy everything with the ultimate weapon and stuff. And then in this game, he's like much more kind of calm, and he's like kind of reminiscing about what he did and everything, and the way that they kind of portray his character in this because of somebody who has kind of like accepted what he's done and is trying to get better from it. I just think it's so cool. Like, I was actually so surprised when I found out that he was returning in this game. And even towards like the end of the game, when they started connecting more stuff with like Team Flare and how they had like a Team Flare Nouveau going on, and like one of the crazy like trainers who's like really strong in it was a part of the ZA Royale as like a secret like kind of final boss that you had to go and find, and it turned out to be the guy who owns like the coffee shop that you like sit at the very beginning of the game. It was really, really cool. But the fact that they make you like go into the Lysandra Cafe, and then you get to go back down into like the secret base that they kind of had going on there from Pokemon X and Y. You can even like see like the room that they trapped AZ in like the previous game, and then you can also see like the room where like you were able to press the button to like launch the ultimate weapon and everything. Like, that was actually some really fun fan service, and then really cool like kind of ways to kind of get reminded of the events that did happen in the previous game for somebody who didn't play it. But by far, one of my favorite things inside of this game is the way that it handles the connections and threads the lore back to Pokemon X and Y. As of course, we never got a Pokemon Z on the 3DS, and it did look like from leaked Game Freak documents that there was supposed to be a third like Pokemon X and Y type of game that was supposed to come out on the 3DS, but it just got scrapped internally and never ended up coming. And so now that we have a revisit back to the Kalos region with the game focused on Zygarde, they were essentially going to have to create some new lore and like do a lot of work to basically make it connect back to Pokemon X and Y still, but have everything make sense. And I just feel like the way that they do this, they pull it off really well. So in Pokemon X and Y, we learn about the story with the character AZ and his partner Pokemon Floette. There's a terrible Kalos war that happens many years into the past, and AZ's Floette goes into the war, but unfortunately ends up passing away. This leaves AZ devastated, so he creates this device where it basically takes the lives and saps the lives out of so many Pokemon and living things and channels it into his Floette so that it can be revived, and it ultimately ends up succeeding, and he brings his Floette back to life. But it also leaves AZ full of anger and rage at the world for taking away his Floette in the first place. So then he turns this device into like this crazy ultimate weapon and unleashes so much destruction. His Floette realizes how it came back and how it was basically from so many other Pokemon losing their lives, and seeing how AZ had become like this, the Floette wasn't happy, and so it disappeared. But because of all of this, AZ had to wander for like 3,000 years just kind of thinking about all the stuff that he did and how he became the way that he did. But also 2,000 years since then, there was a man of great power who asked him if there was a way that he could protect the Kalos region. And this is all of the new stuff that's introduced in ZA, where they tell you that AZ had actually created another device called Ange, and instead of the other device like the ultimate weapon, which would take the lives of so many Pokemon and use it for destruction, Ange would actually use the power of his Floette to give eternal life to everything and protect the city of Lumiose. And during the events of Pokemon X and Y, we have the character Lysander, who essentially wants to use these devices as a way to create mass destruction and take out a huge chunk of the world for his own selfish gain, as he doesn't feel like the world is beautiful enough because of the way that everything works. And that is kind of like the big way that the villain works inside of Pokemon X and Y. But the way that they kind of retcon this and make it make sense with Pokemon Legends ZA is that the device of Ange was also embedded into Prism Tower during the time of Pokemon X and Y, Y, but AZ needed his Floette to basically be able to grant eternal life, and he didn't have his Floette because his Floette had left him, and Lysander wasn't able to find this Floette anywhere, so he was not able to activate Ange, which instead he ended up using just the legendary Pokemon Xerneas and Yveltal to essentially just use the ultimate weapon that AZ had created for destruction, and that's what he then pulls off at the end of Pokemon X and Y during its climax. Now, your character in Pokemon X and Y stops this from happening, and we know at the very end of the game, AZ does in fact get reunited with his Floette again, after the Floette is able to see that he's become a changed man, and he does feel remorse for all the stuff that he has caused. And even though his Floette is back, they don't do anything with Ange as it's still in Prism Tower, because the city of Lumiose is happy, everybody's prospering, and everything is going well. But because Lysander has activated that ultimate weapon, remnants of it are causing Ange to also start reacting too, and that's what causes the rogue Mega Pokemon and all the Mega Crystals and everything to start occurring in Lumiose City 5 years after the events of Pokemon X and Y. And that is why AZ mentions how they need to have the strongest Mega Evolution user to then get the Mega Evolution of Floette so that it can use Ange and be able to grant eternal life and have everything prosper like how everything was intended to protect the city. And that's what creates the ZA Royale by Quasartico so that they could find the strongest trainer capable of Mega Evolution to then use it with Floette. And just the way that everything flows together is so nicely done, and it's not like some crazy story or anything with like some 5D level foreshadowing from X and Y, but just the way that they thread everything together, I was very, very happy. And one of the things that I really loved about this game during the finale is how you need to get to Ange or like Prism Tower with the Mega Floette. You've got this really long path that you need to go on all the way to it, and there's like all of these Mega Pokemon that are rogue and kind of crazy that are in your way, but you have all of the important characters that you've met throughout the game and in the ZA Royale come to help you. And it is just so cool because this game honestly might just have one of my favorite Pokemon casts of all time, because I genuinely can't name a single character that I find annoying. Like if you told me right now to name a character that I find annoying or I can't stand in Pokemon Legends ZA, I genuinely cannot think of anyone. So just the fact that like you're on this path now to get to Ange and like the Mega Floette, and you've got all of these really cool characters like Ivor and his sister Gwyn, and then you've got like Canary, and you've got like all of these Corbeau, and all these characters just coming to help you and helping you with like these Mega Evolutions and battling alongside you. It was just so cool. Like it felt like what happens in like Pokemon Black and White, where like you've got all of these gym leaders who come to help take on like the sages with like Team Plasma, but instead it's actually like taken a step further because you actually like fight with them and fight with your friends inside of this game, and it's like the characters that you've met, instead of just like them coming and being like, hey, we got this, like you can go on up ahead. It's actually like more embedded with them, and it just feels so well done. But what really caught me off guard was after beating the game and having the credits roll, which I already thought that the credits were really pretty too. It kind of shows you them like rebuilding the tower and like fixing up the city and everything. The very last post-credit scene was the grave of AZ having passed away, and that actually got me to tears because I was not expecting it. Like we don't really ever see like death like that inside of Pokemon games, but they've really started to kind of do that now, especially with like Pokemon Scarlet and Violet 2, where we learn about like what happens with like Arven's parents at the end of the game, and like we never really had that. But seeing that now with like AZ, like this really kind of important character that was always kind of just a mystery with Pokemon X and Y, and really kind of having everything wrap up with his AZ and all the stuff that he did and kind of just paying for it all, and having him go at the very end of this game, like that really just kind of hit me, and I was like, wow, this is really the end of an era, and like that really got me. So yeah, I just feel like the way that this game does everything, and it has like the cast kind of reminiscing with AZ alongside all of it happening, like it really kind of got to me, and I was just very, very kind of getting emotional from that. But really, I was genuinely surprised at the way that this game handled its connections, threaded the lore back to Pokemon X and Y, and still had everything line up and make sense, and also have other returning character surprises like Lysander, which I just wasn't expecting at all. So experiencing all of that for the first time was truly just a really special experience, and it's just so cool because even if you look at like the trailers and the marketing and the ads for Pokemon Legends ZA, not once did they ever promote this game as like a sequel or a continuation to Pokemon Pokemon X and Y, we knew that the character Zygarde was still going to have a focus in the game, but it just seemed like it was going to be kind of like its own separate, kind of like self-contained story in modern day Lumiose. But the fact that it actually like goes back to the source material from X and Y and has everything connect together and you can have it still make sense, like that is just so cool, because it really kind of impressed me. Because if I look at games like Tears of the Kingdom, which actually marketed itself as a sequel to Breath of the Wild, this game genuinely just has more connections and like lore directly related to its past game than that game does with Breath of the Wild, because it literally just does not care about the divine beast or like anything that happens with like the champions and stuff. Like it was so weird. So like this genuinely made me so happy with the fact that they actually did care about the lore and everything that they had with the game. But now, of course, because this is the second Pokemon Legends game, I'm sure a lot of you are also wondering about how I feel about this game in comparison to Pokemon Legends Arceus. And with the way that I've been talking so much in this video, I haven't even looked at how long it is, but I'm sure it's going to be like a really long video. I feel like if I go over every single aspect about like comparing it to Legends Arceus, this video is just going to get way too long. So I think I'm actually just going to make like a separate video going over the aspects that I like about this game more than Arceus, what I like in Arceus more, like just a whole video going over like a comparison to Pokemon Legends ZA and Arceus, so you can definitely look forward to that sometime in the future. But yeah, all in all, Pokemon Legends ZA was a game that I found myself having a lot more fun than I thought I was going to, and it really did kind of surprise me. And I tweeted about it as soon as I kind of finished the game, but I truly do think that this is going to be one of my S tier Pokemon games. I really just had a ton of fun with it, and there's so many good moments compared to like the bad moments for me that like there's just way more good inside of this game that I truly just had an incredible experience. I genuinely love all of the characters, the music is phenomenal, the way that it threads together the lore and the connections back to the previous game is great, and just having a new battle system like the real-time combat was also so refreshing, and I really do hope that they kind of continue with that in like future Legends games, and maybe they can add even more to it and expand on it and make it even better. But yeah, that is pretty much everything I have to say about Pokemon Legends ZA. I feel like I've been talking about this game for so long, like I haven't even seen how long I've been recording for. Let me just see here, and oh my god, dude, I've been talking about this game for over an hour? That's insane. Like, oh god. I mean, I think I'll probably be able to condense and cut some stuff to make it like around an hour by the time I upload this, but even then, like, are people actually gonna care about me yapping about this game for an hour? That's like crazy. Like, are you even at this point right now, like listening to what I'm saying? Like, you know what? If you got to this point in the video, comment "Let's go Dynamo," and I'll know that you're a real one who actually got to this point. Because if you're somebody who just kind of skips around and clicks on certain things and then clicks off, you're never going to get to this point. But if you actually listen to me yap all the way about this game for an hour, comment "Let's go Dynamo," or comment "Let's go Dynamo" and then whatever else you want to say, and I'll know that you're a real one who actually made it to this point in the video. But yeah, if you guys enjoyed the video, definitely be sure to click that like button and also subscribe to the channel as well. I'm definitely gonna have some more Pokemon videos, so be sure to subscribe so you don't miss out on that. Comment down below and let me know what you think about this. How do you feel about Pokemon Legends ZA? How was your experience with the game? What are the things that you liked about it? What are the things that you didn't? What would you rate the game? Definitely be sure to comment down below and let me know. But if you don't have anything to say about it, just comment your favorite emoji down below for some engagement. I would really appreciate it. Go follow me on Twitter at Aero so you can be featured in videos, and also join my Discord server as well. We've got a bunch of people in there who are always talking about Pokemon and Smash Bros and Nintendo, so definitely be sure to join that. And remember to enter my giveaway as well. I am giving away an entire Nintendo Switch 2 for free, so if you want to have a chance to win that, all you gotta do is click the link below in the description or the pinned comment. But yeah, that's pretty much it. Thank you so much for watching.